Welcome back to the Win with Dice podcast, a podcast featuring members of the Win with Dice team. I'm Calvin, and I'm joined here by Ramon.
Hey guys, thanks for checking out the Win with Dice podcast. This is a podcast all about tabletop RPGs. Calvin and I take a casual approach to the hobby, so on this podcast, we like to talk about the games that we run and the games that we play and the cool, wonderful people we get to experience the hobby with. If this is your first time kind of hearing about tabletop RPGs, hey, feel free to stop this podcast, go find yourself some friends and some dice and a table and go have some fun. And if you're a player at someone's table and you never jammed before, hey, maybe you should jump behind the GM screen and run a game for your friends. Yeah.
Indeed. So this week we are going to get into a new Pathfinder book that's quickly becoming one of my favorites, NPC Core, which is a book that's full of NPCs. It's like the bestiary of NPCs. And I think it's going to be very useful for GMs. But before we get into all that fun stuff, we have to get to the most important part of the show, the Win with Dice Weekly GM Tip of the Week.
Yes, the Win with Dice Weekly GM Tip of the Week, brought to you by Calvin. Thanks, Calvin.
Yeah. So I did run a game recently, that thing I still sometimes do. And I had certain plans for that game. I had made note of certain things that I would like to cover, I would like to get to, certain beats I was definitely wanting to hit. But the thing is, I didn't get to all of them, because some stuff did take longer than I expected, but it was fun to sort of dive into those things. There was just some character moments, some conversations, and then just some stuff that, kind of happened on the fly, but it was really fun to get into, and the dice themselves being very dramatic at certain moments. And yeah, I guess what I wanted to say, and I feel like this is probably something that's come up before, or I guess the tip I'm trying to communicate, is that people shouldn't be so rigidly stuck to their notes or what they have prepared, because what you and your players come up with in the moment will sometimes be more interesting, because it's unexpected for you as the GM as well. It's not the thing you prepared, but if you lean into it and go with the flow, you can find something, even more fun.
Yeah, I think that's the cool part about the hobby is that collective collaborative storytelling that you get to have at the table where, as a GM, you don't know what's going to happen next, right? You're also a player at the table, so sometimes you just got to let the story kind of go where it goes, and don't worry so much about getting to that next story beat or getting to that next encounter. It'll be there. Don't worry.
Yeah, and if anything, it'll give you more time to prep those encounters. That has happened to me because I did have a thing I wanted to do, but now this book has given me some interesting ideas, I will say. And I think it's going to improve the encounter that I had planned in ways that I may not have been able to do before. Plus, as always, sure, the dice are always going to be very dramatic on their own. I really want to catch up with the recaps for this particular campaign, the Fate Seer campaign that I've talked about on here a handful of times. It's just that each of those sessions are minimum 5 hours.
Honestly, the Fate Seer campaign is one of my favorites. I'm always so excited to hear what the gang's getting up to. It's also the one that always has the weirdest turns. It's always just you think something's gonna go one way, and you're right. You're like, I have a big fight with a big bad, but actually we solved the problem with words, and you're like,
yeah,
all right. But yeah, there you go, folks. There's your tip of the week. Just kind of lean into the flow of the game. Don't worry about getting to that next story beat or encounter. Just rock with it.
Indeed. All right, so let's hop into the topic for this week, which is the new NPC Core book for Pathfinder 2nd Edition Remaster. As always, when we talk about a book, we will have it linked below. So if you want to check it out, check out the link on YouTube, or I think I can also put it in the description on Spotify. But to get right into it, like I said, this book is the bestiary of NPCs. So if you are someone who is running a game and, you have to fill out your world with actual people, not just big scaly monsters, this book provides that. There is an NPC Gallery in the original GM Core book, or the original Game Master's Guide, I should say. But it was missing from the remaster GM Core in favor of there was the treasure gallery and other expanded bits that were part of the core rule book, but got shuffled around. So instead of being a section in a book, it is now an entire book unto itself. And it also has a whole bunch of mechanics I think are really cool, including troop mechanics, which are, I feel, a bit simpler than how they were presented before.
Mm-hmm.
So, what I wanted to do is just say what kind of categories of NPCs the book has, and then get into some of the mechanical stuff, And then we could just speed run through a bunch of cool looking NPCs because there's a lot of really cool art in this book. There's a specific NPC called the Leg Breaker, who is...
Who's basically your hot goth girlfriend.
Yep.
Damn. I was like, oh man. Yeah, there's some actually really cool artworks of NPCs. I actually really like the Flamboyant Thief too. That's a really killer piece of artwork, and it's already making me like want to make this a bad guy in a campaign where you're just the cops. The players are the cops, and they're just trying to like catch this thief. That would be pretty fun. It'd be like a reverse heist. Like
I would be very easily won over by this Flamboyant Thief, not gonna lie.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, so the book sorts out the NPCs in different categories. You have your artisans, who are like your crafters, your courtiers, who are your nobles, would be found in some sort of court, your criminals, your bandits, assassins, lawbreakers, devotees, who are like religious NPCs like clerics and paladins, that sort of thing. The downtrodden, who are more on like the bottom rungs of society. Engineers, who are also crafters, but they lean more into like machinery and tech. Explorers, who are guides, hunters, and travelers. Healers, who are alchemists, medics, and herbalists, and, healers of all sorts. Laborers, and they do more like physical labor jobs to fill in that space. Martial artists, which I think is self-explanatory. Mavericks, which I think is an interesting one. It's people who just like, they make their own rules. They're too cool for any specific category.
Mavericks. I'm a maverick. I don't even play by anyone's rules.
You have like your high roller. You have the gun witch, which is another very cool piece of artwork.
Yes, perfect.
You have your mercenaries, military NPCs like commanders and troops, mystics for spellcasters, officials for like government figures, so like clerks all the way up to prime minister, performers for your bards and your acrobats and your dancers, primalists for people who do primal magic or have nature expertise, your scholars for your students and the teachers, seafarers for sailors and of course pirates, and villains, where you have like your rivals, your adversaries, your masterminds, that sort of thing. And each category has NPCs of different levels, and of course you can take those numbers and adjust them as you see fit. As well, there are NPCs for each player ancestry, and ways that you can apply NPC templates or ancestry templates to these different NPCs, because each of them is made with like a human as the base. But you can take any of these ancestry templates and apply them to an NPC to make it like an elf or a halfling or whatever you want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I do want to get into some of the mechanical stuff. Specifically, I wanted to cover troops, because I feel like this could be its own whole thing. I would, if we were making like different videos on just like mechanics, I think we could make a video on troop mechanics. I think they're really cool. They feel a lot simpler than they did before.
Cool. Yeah, I was interested in the troop mechanic. I don't think I've ever really dived into using them, but I've definitely been seeing the tags around in all the books now, right?
Yeah, and I think like before there wasn't many. There were like a handful to work with, but I don't think the rules were as kind of straightforward, I guess, as they represent here. But yeah, the way that troops work is that they are... So again, these troop mechanics, I think they were originally featured in Bestiary 3, I want to say, but they have been updated for the remaster, and a lot of these NPC categories have their own examples of troops. So you'll find like your bandit gangs, your mercenary bands, and even a deluded mob if you just want like a crowd of people.
Mm.
And they are found on page 231 of the book. And they, again, like they represent like large groups of enemies, but with a single stat block. So at full HP, troops are represented by 4 segments, and each of these segments is a 10 by 10 space. Each segment has to be touching another with at least 5 feet of space. It can't be like touching diagonally, like one side has to be touching the side of another. Troop HP, and you'll see this in the stat blocks for them. Troop HP has different thresholds, and these thresholds are 2/3 and 1/3 of the troop's health. And when the troop passes that threshold, they lose a whole segment. So it'll be down to 3 and then down to 2. Typically, the creature who caused the troop to lose a segment will decide which segment is removed. And those lost segments can be recovered with downtime. In addition, when a troop loses a segment, it also reduces its maximum HP to whatever that threshold is. So for example, if you're fighting like a heavy cavalry and you get them below 70 HP, that removes one of their segments and then their max HP becomes 70 instead of 105. So troops themselves they're typically immune to non-damaging effects that'll target a single creature. Like if you do charm or demoralize, that sort of thing, that would hurt only one creature. But abilities that can target 5 or more creatures can target a whole segment. So this is where your AoE abilities will really shine.
Mm-hmm.
If you can target 10 or more creatures, you can target 2 segments. And if you somehow have the ability to target 20 or more creatures, you can target the whole troop. But of course, you can just do your area of effect attacks. And the troops themselves, they have weaknesses to area damage. Similar to swarms, which are like the much smaller version of this, they are weak to area damage.
Okay, cool. Man, they have all the stuff here. All of the units you could possibly want.
Yeah.
Yo, I think we're back online for using those Matt Colville rules. But now I could just use a bit Pathfinder and just be chill about it.
True. Yeah, because we can have a troop instead of having to keep track of like a handful of different types of NPCs. You just do one as a troop.
Yeah, and then I could just like have them hang out with you guys, actually. Yeah, yes. Now it's called coming together. Oh, cool. Awesome.
Yeah, because in our game, you did have us, like, we are sort of leading a small adventurers guild. So that could be like a mercenary band troop instead of like a bunch of individual NPCs.
Yeah, I was actually looking to maybe put them into a bunch of individual NPCs, but now I could just use the troop, and yeah, that'll work out really well. I like the fact that I don't know. I'm a big believer that like we just need stat blocks for stuff, and we could alter stuff. But like I just like that, you know, if I wanted to just grab something and change it, I can, and it's all here. Because like I really think Pathfinder is great with the monsters, but yeah, I'm glad this book exists because like
yes.
I just sometimes I just need people.
Yes, exactly.
I don't need to. Yeah.
That has always been one of the harder parts of prep, is if you just need a person. To be honest, when I'm running games and I need like a person, if I have a sense of what level I need for the difficulty I want, I'll just go into like Foundry and just search for humanoids at that level. Because they have like a bunch of stuff from different books and whatever, and sometimes there's a creature who was an enemy in a book, and I'm like, that's close enough. And I'll like file off the name and add my own name and maybe change some stuff. But that's usually what I do, so I appreciate that this book exists, because now there's just a ton of that, and it's way easier. It's also already in Foundry, as I found out when I was running. But yeah, so with troops, non-damaging abilities that can prevent a whole segment from being able to function as part of the troop, like if you can make a group flee, for example, it'll just remove that segment. Movement, when they're moving, you move a segment and the others follow, you know, keeping the same rule of how these segments are supposed to connect. They can be grouped as however the GM sees fit, as long as none of these segments move more than you move the segments one at a time, and that first segment determines how far the others can move. You basically treat them like a 10 by 10 creature, but they have to still be in contact with each other. And instead of moving, you can also just reshape the entire troop as long as one segment stays in place. And these honestly seem pretty simple. They seem pretty straightforward as a way to like run a mob of enemies. And it feels a lot easier than like putting, I don't know, 10 different individual tokens. You just have one group that moves as its own large mass. I haven't tested it myself yet, but it is something that I do want to use. I want to see how this performs in combat against like a party, right?
Oh man, the War Mage Squadron is so hype, like actually. Man, it's so good. Okay, yeah, they're just a bunch of badass wizards with bows and hats, and they're pointy. So yes, please.
As they should be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. Yeah, I'll put some of the art into the episode. I don't want to put like too much because I do want people to actually get this book. But that squad, I'm gonna have to yoink that, especially because I'm playing like a very like one of my games, it's more of a city setting, and this is just like a godsend to me right now.
I was gonna say, like, poor Calvin all those times trying to figure out making NPCs or whatever on the fly. Now he could just pluck them right out of the book.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, because my players, they're like that sort of bandity, roguish type. They're doing their own heists and things. And now I can very easily put in like city guard and stuff for them to deal with. Because I was trying to figure out oh, you know what I could do? Because now I'm off topic, but I was also trying to figure out like wanted levels in a way, like how to make a mechanic out of that, or if even wanted to. But it might be easier now because it can have levels of like, oh, if you do X amount of crime, maybe like 2 NPC guards will show up, but if you do this, then a guard troop might show up. And in fact, the book does have like, oh, there was a thing that would fit this specifically that was just like different crimes, I guess.
Yeah, what I'm also excited for is that this will make just like escort quests even cooler. Like,
yeah,
just like you could just like have a dude, and you know, like I'm at the Scholars, right? Like, and totally have a whole campaign or a whole adventure where you're taking like a librarian or like a researcher or astronomer or something like that, and like taking them to a place, right? To go look at the stars or something like that, specifically on. And you know, they have stats. You don't have to worry. Like, if they get attacked, you don't have to like figure out something on the fly. If it's there, and they can even help out in combat a little bit too, right? So
yeah, because I did have that specific problem. That's why a certain NPC is an astrologer or an astronomer, because that was the stat block that I had. It turned out well for that NPC, but yeah. But now I have a whole lot more options. And it was under officials. There's a list of like adventurer crimes, from capital offenses to civil infractions. So I don't know. I feel like I can do something with that.
Yeah.
Again, yeah. This book has a lot of really cool mechanics and ideas. I did not even get to all of them. I just put down like as much as I could. Yeah, there are, like I said, there's different NPCs for each ancestry, including some stat blocks, suggestions for names, and like each ancestry has its own unique element to it. So there's like halfling games, there's the Kolo bone carvings, and dwarven curses, that I thought would be really fun. Well, you could be like, oh, shave my beard and call me human. Or calling someone a daggerless oaf. Yeah, I think I'm probably going to throw some of those in. And again, those adjustments you can make to each type of NPC.
Wait, sorry, I just have to point out there's a wealthy vigilante.
Yeah, I saw that.
NPC, which is like,
Yeah.
How do you say Batman without saying Batman, right? Like,
I can't believe this came out after I already made like a vigilante character. Maybe I'll have to.
Well, yeah, you could have to, or you could just make the. I don't know if you already put all his stats and stuff together, but like, I mean, here's a vigilante dude for that rule of coin. You know, have him go harass the PCs because they're bad guys technically.
Yeah. Oh man, I do like the art for this so-called wealthy vigilante. I don't know. I think I could borrow some abilities from this. Maybe I will. But yeah, there are NPC creature companions, which I think is a cool detail. So it gives you some possible creatures, categories of creature, like aquatic and flying and whatever, abilities for the thing to have in downtime or in encounters, like some support abilities that a creature can have, and some like specific companions, like a trained bat, if that's something that will fit the NPC, as well as some stuff on like eidolons for summoner NPCs. This one is really big for me because it's such a minor thing, but I'm really glad it's there. Themed spell lists. So if you want to make a caster NPC, but the caster that you have, or if you grab one from a book or whatever, but they don't have the right spells, you can use these spell lists to change the caster into the type of theme that you want. And it's not just like the typical kinds. There's like conjurer, there's mentalist, there's pyromancer, and if you just want someone to fit that theme, you can just put those spells on them, and I think that's really cool. It gives you like the magic traditions they would fit into, the sort of like different spells at different levels. That's going to make things a whole lot easier for me, because something I do have some trouble with is like, I wanted a caster, but I don't know what spells they would have, so I'm just going to use whatever's already on the NPC sheet. And then there's a couple other mechanics. There's the connection subsystem, which tracks relationships with NPCs, which you can track as a group or as an individual. It's measured in different tiers where you can be bonded, which are like important lifelong relationships, all the way to vindictive, which is where your enemies and adversaries would sit. And those connections can be moved up and down that track by tokens or insults. Tokens being like positive acts that strengthen those bonds, and they can vary in impact based on the time or effort that the player invests. Or insults, which are negative, and those vary based on whether whatever happened was intentional or how much harm that it causes. And I do like having a way to keep track of this sort of thing. I think you could use like a clock or something like that to keep track of something like this, if you didn't want to just use like the tiers implied.
Yeah.
I think one of the recent Lancer adventures does that. The Mech College one.
I'm blanking too. Something wolves. Shadow of the Wolf.
Shadow of the Wolf, yes. Shadow of the Wolf, quick shout out to that. If you look at the NPCs in that book, they do have like a position. They start off in a clock that tracks their relationship to the player group. So yes, there's this connection subsystem, and then there's NPC Advancement, which just provides some guidelines on how to advance NPCs. NPCs can become better at what they do with some help from the player characters, or if they accomplish a goal, or if they survive a major crisis. Usually this can be done in the GM Core book, there's a system for building creatures and possible stats at each level. So you can mostly just use that, but the NPC Core book does have ideas for certain perks that NPCs can have if they're specialists in something. Instead of like, raising up their damage values or whatever, they can instead have different perks where they get better at identifying items, or they can change the mood of a whole settlement. That sort of thing that might not like maybe this NPC, they don't work in a way that you just make the number bigger, but like they can do something else for you. And a lot of this is stuff that I think can be figured out like in RP, like the connection stuff, the NPC advancement and stuff. But I do like that the book gives you these suggestions on what you can do. I think that's what makes Pathfinder really nice to GM. Like there's games that, they have their own things, their own flares and stuff that make it easier or harder to run games, but I think that's one of the things that makes Pathfinder easier to run is so much of the book is focused on, so much of their books in general, I should say, are focused on helping the GM.
Yeah, actually they make it really easy to just kind of drop stuff in to whatever you're doing, and yeah, it's super cool.
Oh yeah. So that was all the mechanical stuff I wanted to look at specifically. So I'm thinking that we can just go through the book again, like each section, like your criminals, your engineers, your explorers, whatever, they all have their own unique mechanics to them. So the artisans will have stuff on different kinds of artisan guilds and what quests or encounters those guilds might have. The mercenaries will have like different mercenary company names or different superstitions, and again, the officials have different lists of crimes, or what sort of legal exemptions could apply to adventurers, like that sort of thing. It's I don't know. This book has like just so much stuff that I haven't even like. There's a table for ship names, right? Because you have your sailors, your seafarers, and what are the laws of the sea? Like, what are the rules that all sailors follow? And just some adjustments for all the aquatic ancestries in case you have a merfolk character or a merfolk NPC. I don't know. There's a lot to this book, is what I'm getting at.
Oh, it is a lot to this book. That's super good though. I'm just happy that actually, if you ever have like an old Pathfinder 1 like adventure that you're using like I am for Rise of the Runelords, this is really good because there's a lot of humanoid, just regular, but like humanoid, more like normal people NPCs in the book. That is this is really nice to have. Like, we're only through part 1 and we're gonna just see more people, right? So I mean, I'm kind of glad that this book exists now, and I can just pick. I don't have to make up every single NPC in Sandpoint. Now I can just be like, oh, what do they do? Here's the dude, right? Like,
yeah, because you could use like a commoner or whatever, but like each of these has their own individual abilities and stuff. Like these can all be things that might come up in game, and yeah, it's just way easier when it gives you something to work with.
Yeah, I do have to shout out to the World Ender. On page like 163, they have an ability called monologue, and I was like, yes, please give me that. Yeah. Basically, you just monologue and you get like some bonuses to whatever you're doing. But
I appreciate that it's a concentrate ability that they can just keep.
Yeah. I also like the idea that like if they're on fire, they can't monologue, right? They're like, can't keep my concentration on my words and how much I'm going to destroy you. But they do call out the Rune Lords, so I think it's I'm very excited that I don't have to stat a Rune Lord. Like,
what? Could we face a Rune Lord in Rise of the Rune Lords? That doesn't seem possible.
I don't know. Maybe if you look at the cover, I don't know. The cover of that book gives it away so hard, and I'm like, what am I supposed to do? The players are fighting a Rune Lord, and throughout that adventure, they keep showing you pictures of a Rune Lord. So I'm like, I don't know, man. Like,
no, I'm sure that means nothing.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, I just realized. You know who really could have used monologue is freaking Kaivanth, the wyvern who would be a dragon.
Oh yeah, Kaivanth could have monologued the shit out of those dudes.
That's from another campaign for people who might not know. I've been talking about Crown of Dragons for a while.
True.
Oh man. Yeah, I was talking about Legbreaker because that is, I think Legbreaker and Gunwitch are so far my favorite art from the book. But I'm sure there's others that I haven't even seen yet. But Legbreaker has an ability that is break legs, which...
Wait, what? You're telling me that Legbreaker can break legs?
What a twist. But yeah, it's like she makes a strike, and if it hits, the creature is knocked prone and becomes clumsy. And then they get a penalty to speed because the Legbreaker broke their legs.
I also do like the fact that they gave you different types of healing people, like surgeons and plague doctors, and just like you could just have people hang out with you. Like it's just like a bunch of NPCs. Like, I don't know, like if you're running Pathfinder right now, I would say that after the monster manual not the monster manual,
the bestiary, or Monster Core. Yes, you were right. Monster Core.
Yeah,
sorry,
the Monster Core. This book, I think, is like, I don't know, like not necessary, but like, damn, bro, this is mad useful. Like,
yes, this is incredibly useful.
Oh my god.
Like, it's useful for me as per someone who's running a city-based campaign where there isn't going to be a whole lot of monsters. I think if you're doing that kind of campaign, I would definitely recommend this book. Because I'm just looking at the healer section, and there's a table for, like, personal touches, like, what does the healer do? Like, if they give candy after a treatment, or if they, like, tuck, like, dried flowers into the patient's dressing. And there's also a table for glimpses beyond death. If a character is healed, but they have died, or they've gone into dying or something like that, they can have a vision of, oh my god, this table would have been so useful for me.
Yeah. Yeah. The cool part about the book is like every time there's like a section of like NPC groupings or whatever, like they also give you just like tools and charts and like little things that are like basically if you're using this NPC, like this stuff will come up, like you can add it into your game, which is just pretty cool.
Yeah, there's a bunch of cool martial artist moves, including some dirty fighting and forbidden knowledge.
No, my forbidden technique. Oh, buddy. Best know that's coming. Yeah, I know, for real. It's pretty cool. I think that too. I'm actually pretty excited about the Explorer page too, because I find that at least I know there's a part in Rise of the Romans where you have to go explore somewhere, and like I like the idea of just having there's like other people in the world other than the adventurers or your players being adventurers, right? Like I just like the idea that people are just doing stuff all the time, and paths can cross. And you guys can like link up together, make a new friend for a little bit, and then you guys split off, right?
Yeah, because someone has to make the maps of these areas.
Exactly, right? Like, who makes the maps? The map dudes. Yeah.
I appreciate the Tomb Raider stat block. Although I feel like it should include... I mean, they have a crossbow. I feel like it should have the 2 pistols.
Maybe you could just give it to them.
True.
Yeah.
I am just looking at, again, some of these different sections. There is criminal tools, but also criminal magic, which, like, different spells you can use for, like, infiltration and things like that. There is the spell called 500 Toads, which might be a secret JoJo's Part 5 reference. As I'm sure it is. But it's just like you create a bunch of magical toads that fill an area and hop around. And they provide, like... They trigger any potential traps in the area, as well as create difficult terrain. Which... Yeah, sure, a spell that just creates 500 toads. What a very specific number.
Yeah, no more, no less. That's a lot of toads.
Oh, and then below that, there is the bounty board, which I think is a cool little thing that you can probably just throw into your games. Like, there's just a handful of random criminals, the crime they committed, the reward for catching them, and then the recommended level for that particular encounter. Let's see. Well, are there any NPCs that maybe stand out to you as you're scrolling through the book?
I think that I'm gonna get a lot of use out of the mercenaries. They're just kind of cool.
Yeah.
They just have like this cool vibe to them. So, and also all the troops are awesome. I'm gonna take a look at these and see what's good and make some decisions. I think this book just solved all of our problems, Calvin.
It really does, because oh my gosh, it even has like mercenary banter. Should one of us run a mercenary campaign? Is that what we should do?
Maybe we should. I don't know. Maybe Rise of the Rulers become a mercenary campaign.
It could.
Mm-hmm.
So far, the way we've gone through it, there is a monster hunter here who has their own sort of targeting ability, like a hunt prey sort of thing, for called Hunter's Onslaught, where they can focus on a singular creature. It reminds me a little bit of, I think, the operative in Starfinder can target like a specific creature. And of course, the ranger obviously does like a similar thing.
But yeah, I don't know. This book is pretty packed with useful things. Like, it's just extremely useful. I don't know how else to like explain it, but there's so much good stuff in here that you're gonna use some part of it either for like quest givers or NPCs you meet on the road. I mean, you could make like a table that you can roll on to just call up on people and you don't have to like, you just have it and then like reference the page and just go to it whenever you need it. I think they thought about everything. I don't think I really want anything else in this book, because they got like, the big deal is like the spells too, right? Like, but now we have like the ability to switch out any spells we want on the fly to give people different themes. Like, there's a staggering amount of stat blocks in this book too. And I really like the idea of they're giving you little pieces to use the NPCs and like just add them, and just makes it easier to incorporate it or use the stat blocks or just whatever you're planning on doing. This book probably has some rules or a little bit of help to help you on your way, right? Make it easier for you. Yeah.
I think this is probably one of the more mechanically dense books that I've seen in Pathfinder. Maybe not information dense, but, well, I mean, I guess it depends on how you define that, but like, it has so many different tables and mechanics and ideas that, yeah, I think I would recommend it for people who just need a bunch of people in their game.
Yeah, or even just like I like the page of organizations, where if you just need some dudes, it gives you a little bit about them, gives you their characteristics, what their goals are, and like some suitable NPCs that are there, right? Like,
yeah, because it is a lot of like, it's all like Pathfinder canon organizations, but if you have a homebrew world and you have an organization that would happen to fit this theme, there's nothing really stopping you from using it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, sometimes it's just the book is good. Turns out, like. True.
So there isn't. Is there anything else that you wanted to cover in the book at the moment, or we're leaving it there?
I think we can leave it there. Honestly, like, when we do recaps, we'll shout out when we use these stat blocks, because definitely going to reach into this and add this to my toolbox for the next time I run a game. And this is super good.
I would like to make use of the connection subsystem. I think I might give it a try, see how it turns out. I don't know if it's going to end up being something that, like, this didn't really need a mechanic in the first place, but I would like to try to make use of it. Especially because it's like a simpler version of the reputation system in the GM Core book. And I feel like I could expand this to just use it as a reputation system instead of for individuals.
Yeah, it could be like, you could use it for groups, right? I mean, like, even if you're like the person in charge, is that what you're dealing with? But like the group as a whole could be the way, like, as like they're the representation of the whole organization, right? So however they feel about you is how everyone's going to feel about you.
Exactly. Yeah, I think maybe in the future we can cover more subsystems in Pathfinder, because I don't think we've covered everything from GM Core. I think we looked at some of it, but not all of it.
Yeah, I think that would be good.
I think these are underrated parts of the game. These mechanics that exist that can make certain things easier, because they're created by people who like are also playing it, right?
Yeah, and you know, they've probably homebrewed a thing like this, and that's where they're pulling that from, right? Or there's like clearly a gap that everyone needs, like, or like they're like, you don't need to use them in every single game, but in those instances where, you know, you're running like obviously if you're in a city adventure, you gotta go pull a heist or something. Here's all the heist rules or whatever, right? So that kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah, so again, NPC Core, it'll be linked below. Definitely check it out if you need NPCs for your Pathfinder game, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say that you do, then check this book out. And if you are not a Pathfinder player, then it might be able to provide some inspiration as well for other systems. It is very balanced for Pathfinder, but you could probably find some inspiration from it. Or Starfinder 2nd Edition, that's coming out this year. I'm pretty sure we're going to see it out at Gen Con. Also, where are those starship rules, Paizo? Or do we have to wait for the book? You don't want to playtest them? Or just let me specifically see them?
Gotta hide them from Calvin.
Dang it. But yeah, really cool books. Definitely recommend it. But I think that's going to be the episode for this week. So thanks a ton, everybody out there, for swinging by, hanging out, and listening however you do. Always appreciate all those likes and follows and subscribes and everything on different platforms. If you are on YouTube, again, please subscribe, like the video, so we know that you liked it. If you are on Spotify or anywhere else, please drop a comment just letting us know what you think of this book or anything else, or other recommendations that you might have of systems that we should take a look at. On this channel, like, we do have a lot of Pathfinder stuff. We have Starfinder, we have Lancer, we have Kane, a whole lot of different games, so go ahead and check all of those out. I do want to shout out all the people linked below. There's a bunch of Lancer RPG writers and creators linked below. Go check them out if you want to add some stuff to your Lancer games. If you want to check out the Soar RPG that we talked about the last couple of weeks, there's a link below. As well, links to Vault Companions, who recently started their BioShock game, and Untold Stories Project, where I'm hanging out doing some superhero stuff. I realized it has been a minute since I dropped any information on... Because usually whenever I talk about it, I always mention, like, some last little bit of something that happened in that game. Currently, my character, Bowman, is mind-controlled and against the team. So hopefully this badass normal guy can deal with... My goal for that is just to last one round.
Pull a Hawkeye when he tried to fight Superman or whatever. Just survive. Like, that's the goal. The goal is to survive.
Like, any one of them could probably lay me out.
But no, you're Bowman. You're the Bowman. Like,
you know what's funny is before I started playing in that game, Bowman was an NPC, but the whole superhero team was being mind controlled, because this is a thing that just happens. And they were facing the PCs. And because it was a lot of characters on the field, the GM had some players running some characters as well. And Bowman in that combat was very effective, actually, and very frustrating to deal with. So I'm hoping I can tap into that.
Yeah, just channel the the infinite arrows, infinite trick arrows, or whatever you have in your bag.
Exactly. Like 4 levels later, see if you still got it. So yeah, go ahead and check them out. As well as the Tuesday game, I have not betrayed the party yet. But who knows. As well, Project Versus, Ramon, if you want to let people know about that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm working on my own tabletop RPG, Versus. It's a fighting game inspired game. I want to make some snappy rules. I'm making some adjustments in the back. So right now it's the 1.1 version that's out right now. I am working on 1.2. So I'm not sure if that will be out when we release this episode, but it should be out soon.
And the link to it will be below. The page that it is currently on, that'll be the page that the book is always on, so you can go there to find the latest edition of the book.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's going to do it for this week. Ramon, anything else to say before we head on out of here?
No, I think we're good to go.
All right. Well, for all of our GMs and players out there, just remember to keep on winning with dice, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.